It is Monday on Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Patrick Reusse here with me as well. Patrick, we got plenty to get to. I'm thinking we're going to spend a lot of time on the Vikings and the NFC North and the rest of the football slate. Probably get to some Gophers as well, but those were the two things that dominated this weekend. We talked, Patrick, plenty in the lead up to, this opener against the Bengals about kind of what we might expect to see from this team. We both had concerns. Patrick, I don't think any of those concerns were necessarily assuaged in the 27-24 overtime loss. Do you?
No, I do not. And the noble efforts to fix the offensive line with high draft choices, you let Riley Reef go because you had all these guys coming in to replace them. And to go out there and commit penalties like that was just absurd. I know Darsau's hurt and all this stuff, but man alive. First, it wasn't like it was a track meet to Cousins or anything. He didn't have he couldn't throw long if he wanted to because of the pressure, but it wasn't terrible. But geez, you can't commit that many penalties. False starts. I can't believe that a Cincinnati crowd was so boisterous that the boys couldn't figure out when the play was going to be called and anything. It was, they had to work hard to lose that game. That's for sure. I do love Viking fans, though. You can have your team play like that, and they can still insist that the referee screwed them, and that's why they lost. So because of Dalvin's fumble, the Vikings fan base is convinced that he was on the ground. So anyway,
yeah, you play like that. I mean, I think I can't remember exactly what I tweeted, but basically it was, a game they didn't deserve to win. Really, they got let back into it and took advantage of some things, and then could have won because, like you said, I mean, Dalvin Cook, they're driving. They've got they got into Cincinnati territory before he fumbles. And then really a game it seemed like they couldn't afford to lose. And we'll get to that in a minute here too, as we kind of think about the broader context of that game. But yeah, let's go back to the penalties and just how sloppy that is. I mean, it's a function, I think, of, they didn't play much in the starters didn't play much in the preseason, but you should have at least some semblance of rhythm. And, you're probably playing in front of, even it's Cincinnati, but it's loud crowd noise for the first time in more than a year. But just to be so rattled. I mean, they even infected poor CJ Ham. He had 2 false start penalties in like the first 4 snaps of the season. Like, it just was very sloppy, and it spoke to a team, to me at least, that isn't really on the same page right now. And whether that's physical or mental or if it's just one game, I don't know. But that was it was hard to watch at times.
Well, I have said, and it could be just because I'm getting old and more confused, but I have said that I've never been more mystified as to what I expect from a Viking team than this one, because I do think there's talent there, but the training camp was a mess. Anthony Barr has disappeared again. Apparently, he's going to be back, but now he's got a chronic bad knee, just everything that you didn't want to happen happened in the training camp. And then, it just looked like a team that hadn't practiced. It looked like a team that just had, that you gotta, you can't be so paranoid about injuries that you don't take your offensive line out there and let them play 100 snaps in the preseason, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to slap together an offensive line, you got to decide. You got to decide before game 3 who's your offensive line and let them play. See if they know what the hell they're doing. It's it was a gift. Now the Cincinnati coach tried to give it back.
Yes.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. It's like
you're 14 ahead and you're going to run. Now, PJ ran from his own 29 when he was behind, right?
Yeah, against a team that, you're an underdog. You need a spark. Like, they didn't need a spark. They needed a punt.
Yeah, you're 2 touchdowns ahead. Kick it back to the Vikings. They aren't doing anything. Kick it back to the Vikings. Let them commit a couple more penalties.
Right.
What the hell was that? And all of a sudden, the Vikings run back out there and say, thank you, and throw a touchdown pass immediately. Right. And now they're back in the game. I don't think they think much of this young guy in Cincinnati, and I could see why after that stupid decision. I think Joe Burrow is going to be pretty good, and but they're not a good team. I don't know. You look at it now. You better hope Arizona's not as good as they looked yesterday. So that could be ugly. I just had this thought today. I'm not anti-Zim. In fact, I've said before that we're going to miss him when he's gone because we're going to get a 40-year-old phony who doesn't say anything. But you think that maybe he's run out the string, that he's got enough guys who don't care about him anymore or don't listen to him anymore? Do you think they've heard the same thing too often? I just had this thought that this just looks like a team yesterday that wasn't listening to anybody.
Yeah,
that they weren't listening to any coaching, that they just were out there and trying to do their best, but they were not organized in any way.
I think you're onto something. I mean, and again, it's maybe not even necessarily something he specifically did, although, it was a fairly acrimonious training camp. The vaccine storyline probably had something to do with that. And not that he was wrong. I think he was right. But, there's key players up and down that roster who have been, hearing him, with his message on that. And I don't know how that plays out on the field. But you're right. They look like a team that, while they did some good things and, like you said, have some talent and, were certainly motivated to win. They're professionals, and you don't want to draw too many conclusions from one game. They seem discombobulated, though. They just seem like a team that wasn't together in the way that you want a team to be together. And, again, some of these storylines get written because of wins and losses. And I don't know, we would be spending far more time on some of the positives probably right now if Dalvin Cook hadn't fumbled. And I think it was a bang play on that one too. You mentioned, people complaining about that. I even had a good text exchange. I didn't think there was enough in the replay to overturn that. I thought it was maybe the ball was coming out, maybe he was down. I couldn't tell. But, if they kick a field goal there and win, we're talking about, wow, the kicker made a 53-yarder to send him to overtime and, made the game winner in overtime. We're talking about the punter, booming one in overtime to flip field position. We're talking about Cousins, having a pretty good game. We're talking about a lot of different things. So these mistakes get papered over in wins much easier than losses. But now, when you lose a game to a team you're supposed to beat, and there's only 17 of them in a year, that's a right away this season. They're kind of behind already. Yeah.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And as I was saying, I just, these are the athletes of a different age. And, I think that, they can, have an old Zim growling at them for 7 years they might just not be listening. They didn't, as I said, they just didn't look like they were listening to anybody yesterday. And you know what else you got here? You got a coaching staff that's in flux. You got some kid that's, trying to be your offensive coordinator. We don't know if he knows what the hell he's doing or not, do we? I mean, just because once way back in the 1950s when my old man was running the Fulda baseball team, and they told him about this teacher who'd come to town who was a cousin of Rip Rapolsky, who was a major league player. Yeah. And my father said, well, if that's how we're going to base it, maybe we should hire Rip Rapolsky's mother. He said, the fact that Clint Kubiak was raised by Gary doesn't mean he's going to be a offensive genius, so no. I don't know. I don't think there's any, they can, Zim was kind of defiant in our story the other day about how he's going to be around for a while. If I was him, I wouldn't count on that. If this season ends up being 7-9, what surprised me Everybody who made their predictions in our paper on Sunday or online on Sunday, and in the paper, we got a lot of 7 and 9s in there.
7 and 10s, yeah.
7 and 10s. I was very surprised you guys are so negative about these guys.
I was one of
I mean, I didn't even participate because I had no idea. I don't know what the hell is going on here. But there's more pessimism. I think on the Wednesday the training camp started, if we would have asked everybody to do the same thing on the Wednesday the training camp started, all the predictions would have been between 12 and 5 and 10 and 7. And yeah. I think the whole training camp thing, the vaccinations, all that stuff, whatever it was, even more than the vaccinations, was just the bad vibe. And training camp doesn't mean anything, but it sure did to our predictions, I think, in my opinion, because it really changed people's minds about this team.
I 100% agree. I think when the schedule came out, I think we did a thing on Access Vikings podcast where we were like, what are they going to do? I thought they were a 10 or 11 win team. When I saw the schedule, I was like, I can see them beating this team. You kind of go through it, and they had made some of their offseason moves at that point. You're like, yeah, they fixed the defense. Maybe the offensive line is better because they invested in these draft picks. But yeah, the vibe in camp, and then let's not forget too, they replaced their offensive line coach like a month ago because their guy wouldn't take the shot, and so now, now how much of that is how much of what happened yesterday on the line is that?
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, if you want a new quarterback and you want to call up Green Bay this morning, I think you could maybe get that guy, don't you?
That was next on my list, Patrick.
I think the indifference displayed by A-Rod yesterday would indicate to me, unfortunately for Denver, they have now adopted this short passing game with Teddy, 28 completions for 260 yards yesterday. So they don't want Aaron Rodgers. So you probably can't trade him now. But man, he looked like first of all, he gives the interview before the game that was the same interview that they ran before the game. That was the same interview as when he got there, basically telling you all the reasons he thought these guys, that he didn't want to play for these guys. And then they go out and play like that. I'd like to hear the call-in shows in Green Bay last night. Ooh, that had to be something. What a performance.
I was going to say, Patrick, two things. One, good news for the Vikings. They're still in first place.
Yes, -3 point differential. I had that.
Everybody lost.
And they're the only team that hasn't lost in the NFC, too. The other three all lost. You got a better conference record than any of the rest of them because they're 0-0. How about the Packers are awful.
Yeah, and, I could not believe that score. I thought they were going to roll over the Saints, especially with that game moved to Jacksonville.
Oh, man. Jameis, my man. Judd Zulgad is my witness. I've been saying they're going to be better with Jameis than they were with Breeze the last couple of years. I love Jameis. Now, I think he's colorblind at times, obviously, through 30 interceptions in 1 year. But you know what the modern football writer would say about him? He's got arm talent.
Oh, yeah.
Jameis has got arm talent. And he was very good yesterday. And you know what? Sean Payton, it's a good spot for him. Sean Payton just let him sit there and watch for a year. And they worked with him. And as egomaniacal as that guy is, I think he can help a quarterback like that. So they already are, they already are looking like a team that's going to be you're going to be looking up at in the standings when you're looking for the wild cards and stuff like that. So,
James had one of the most amazing seasons in NFL history. Was it 2019 when he had 5,109 yards, 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions.
Yes,
It's like nobody does that anymore. You throw like 12 interceptions and people are
Yeah.
mad at you these days. He threw
Oh
30.
yeah. Fran had 32 his last year, and we said, "Well, gee, that's a little high." Back then, we didn't worry about it like we do now. But interceptions are now capital offenses. But yeah, not a. I mean, the division does look horrible, doesn't it?
You were right about that, by the way. You were saying, "Hey, Packers are not good," and we'll see. It's you don't want to go too.
No.
It's one game. Maybe it's same with the Vikings. We make these big conclusions, and they could look really good next week. But you were saying if the Packers are bad, this could be the worst division in football, and that is absolutely looking to be true if this holds up.
Yeah, boy, it was. The Bears actually showed a little. What are they starting Andy Dalton for?
I don't know.
What is that?
There's who was it? Maybe it was Mark Craig on Friday's show had a good point. Maybe Justin Fields' debut doesn't need to be at the Rams in their brand new stadium.
Yeah, that's true.
Good defense, Aaron Donald, maybe they throw that one to throw Andy Dalton to the Wolves and then let Fields play the home opener. I don't know, but it's got to be soon. It's got to be soon.
Yeah, you know what my observation on the Rams stadium was? I think Stan Kroenke has his own bathroom. I don't think he has to lock it. Remember when he was at TCF Bank Stadium and he had the security guards outside the men's room because he didn't want Jim Thomas from the St. Louis paper to follow him in there because he hadn't talked to the St. Louis paper since he announced they were moving.
I forgot about that.
They had security guards outside the toilet when he went to the toilet. What a dork that guy is! But God Almighty, what a stadium! Unbelievable.
It was like it's like a $5 billion stadium.
Yeah,
seems like a lot of money to me. But.
Endless money. Walmart guy, they got endless money. But I don't know. There's really. It is astounding that they actually were. I wanted to bring up Breland. Whew.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find out why teams got rid of a player, don't you?
Well, and like the minute he goes out, we're getting like heavy doses of Chris Boyd. Like there's the depth again, right? But yeah, Breland got beat a couple times deep. Had the pass interference. He got beat on that play at half, right before half, and then he was kind of a little bit banged up ever since then, right? But yeah, he wasn't great. I liked him in the preseason. So
how about Dantzler not getting the dress?
Yeah,
man alive, 3rd round draft choice, right?
Well,
and he started 10 games last year. He was, as you pointed out, he can't beat out Chris Boyd.
Outside of Justin Jefferson, who's playing from the last 2 drafts?
Yeah, that's true. Suhan wrote a column about that Sunday about how we're laughing at some of the Packers drafts, which are stupid. And meanwhile, what's going on here, Rick? Yeah, as you point out, outside of Justin Jefferson, what do you got going here? Let's see something. Let's see something here. O'Neal was he got a penalty too, right?
I think he got a couple penalties. Yeah, he got. Yeah,
but he didn't get one of the holds. I don't think he's the only one that didn't get a hold, right?
Yeah, well, they have 11 accepted offensive penalties in the game, and I think there's a few more that were declined too because the play was over. They wanted the outcome of the play, not the outcome of the penalty. So it was. I think Breland's pass interference was the only defensive penalty that was accepted. The other in that game, and so the offense, I don't know, where do you go from there? How can you fix that? I mean, I think you theoretically can, but like where do you even begin after you have a game like that with so many penalties?
Yeah, that's true. But the good thing is Zim finally got his place kicker.
Greg Joseph, he made the 50th. He made it twice. He twice.
He finally got his place kicker, and then everything else goes in the outhouse.
I know.
because I love it when Sim's got a bad place kicker because it drives him insane. It's hilarious. Yeah. But this guy's booming him. So
he's booming him. He looked calm and confident.
Yeah, he looked confident. He didn't look like he was terrified of the moment. He would have made that 28-yarder, wouldn't he?
The 27-yarder in 2015. Yeah, maybe.
That's still my favorite.
Little higher pressure moment, but
that's still my favorite reaction ever. That we had to have grade schoolers writing poems to him about how much they liked him. No, he missed a 27-yarder on the coldest day a football team has ever played. He ought to be run out of town, immediately.
And they brought him back next year.
Yeah,
because Rick couldn't admit that it was over because that was one of his Pro Bowl draft picks. And well, let's I think I'll probably have more Vikings talk on the show on Tuesday. So we'll transition here to a little bit of Gophers, if you will. They, I was in and out on that game, Patrick, because I had youth soccer on Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
my poor guy.
7-year-old was her first game of the year, of the fall. So that was fun.
Tell her to chase the ball. Don't just stand back there and go after the ball.
Well, the thing is, she did. They got to play. Everybody got to play different positions because it's mostly a participation kind of league. This is not like this is not the traveling soccer. We travel in our neighborhood, but not far away. But so she played. But before the game, she was adamant. I don't want to play goalie. Don't want to play goalie. And then we get there, and the coach is like, everybody's going to get a chance to play goalie. And then she asks for volunteers, and my daughter says, not me, and runs away. But they switch in, and at halftime, she says to me, I want to play goalie. And I'm like, well, you do? That changed fast in half an hour. So she got a chance to play goalie. But one of the dads came up to me and said 21-3 Gophers at halftime. So I'm like, okay, I stopped worrying about that game. And I saw the final caught a little bit at the end, and it got a little bit close, 31-26.
I didn't see much the first half. I saw the third quarter. They were awful. They didn't care. They stopped playing. I don't care what they say. They didn't, they came out and didn't give a damn for a quarter. And then they finally started running the ball again and won the game. But, and then PJ after the game, he says his team had courage. Drives me nuts. The guy drives me nuts. Shut up. You didn't have courage to beat Miami of Ohio at home, a team that just got hammered the week before by, who was it? Somebody beat them by 100. You didn't have courage. You finally woke up and got your heads out of the bad place that it had been. It was not courageous. No. And don't use that word.
Agreed.
Anyway. I don't think they're very good because I don't think they're very good defensively. So
yeah, that's a problem.
We'll find out.
Ohio State lost to Oregon, by the way. So not that Oregon's a really good team, but that's
Ohio State did have 600 yards.
Yeah, the offense. Ohio State's offense is pretty good. So, but
you look around, Illinois gets beat, and Illinois is 0-2. Since they beat Nebraska. So Nebraska stinks. And so you look at the West, Wisconsin's okay, but not great. Iowa's really good.
Iowa's really good, yeah.
That looks like they're, the premise that when the season started that the West wasn't really good still applies. And in fact, the West might be worse than we thought it was because, I thought Illinois beat Nebraska. It didn't take Bielema long. Then they end up losing to, I can't remember who they lost to 2 weeks ago, but last Saturday they got hammered and they're not very good. So, they'll win some games in the West, but I don't think they're a threat to be in the, with Iowa playing like this. I don't think they're a threat to be in the Big Ten championship game. What do you think is it? One of the most amazing stories in college football right now is Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah.
I mean, when that whole thing broke last year about the black players, all going public saying they've been treated poorly. And I didn't think he had a chance to survive. Did you?
No,
I mean, it was really going against him, and the momentum right then after the George Floyd situation and everything, it was I mean, the pressure, and he hung in there and announced he was changing things, and now they're really good. So
Yeah.
It's about 3-4 years ago, it looked like he was running out of steam down there, and I don't know what they're doing. His kid's supposed to be a complete weenie head, Brian, but they're good. They beat Iowa State, so I don't know how he held things together, but he did.
Yeah, I think you're right about the Big Ten West too. That I guess the formula, if you're the Gophers, we try to hang around close enough and see if that Iowa game down the road makes much of a difference. But
you get them at your place too, right? They're here, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. But without Mo and just seeing what we've seen from the defense so far, and the defense they've done this in past years. Even that 2019 season, they started out pretty poorly, even though they were winning. They were barely beating some of those non-conference teams. So there is a bar where they can get better this season. But yeah, it's.
I have said that his teams have a tendency to get better because
they do.
The year they got 2019, which is considered this grand season, Georgia Southern had them beat.
They needed like a 4th and 19 to beat them or something, right?
Yeah, that's true. So it's boy, you're still on that Ben Johnson campaign. What's wrong with you? The guy couldn't beat me in horse, for God's sakes. What's wrong with you? I got to get you to calm down, man.
Me? I didn't do anything about Ben Johnson.
I thought you were a Ben Johnson fan. And I didn't
write anything recently about him. I had him on the show a while ago. I think I'm interested to see what he does, but he was he's got a lot to prove. Let's see that. They're going to be.
Maybe I was reading something old. I thought you did it in the last couple of days.
No, I haven't written anything about him. Maybe Marcus did. I don't know. Marcus has to, but they're going to be bad this year. Oh, they're going to be so bad this year.
Who?
The Gophers, yeah.
Oh, Gopher basketball team.
Yeah.
No.
That roster.
No, I meant Ben. I meant Ben Simmons. I meant Ben Simmons, not Ben. I was like, what
are you talking about, Ben? Okay.
Ben Simmons. I got my Bens mixed up.
Erase.
Ben Simmons.
Erase. Yes. No, I'm on Ben Simmons. Yes, I'm on Ben Simmons. What?
Oh God.
This is the Timberwolves. This is a. What else are they going to? What else are they going to do? They're completely irrelevant unless they make another move. I know he's got flaws, but this is a guy.
Who are they going to take off your hands? They aren't going to take D'Lo D'Lo for God's sakes. So who are they going to take?
I think you get a third team involved, and it's going to be Beasley, Jaden McDaniels, and 2 or 3 picks.
Well, who wants Beasley?
Beasley's a fine player for
if he's not in jail.
Yeah, right. I know that. Right. The big problem, of course, right, is that he's one more suspension away from really, being out for a long time. But yeah, I don't think they want D'Lo, and you're not going to trade Ant. You're not going to trade Towns.
Yeah, excuse me for the Ben Johnson.
I was like, what's Ben Simmons? About Ben Johnson? Yes,
I did read about you and Ben Simmons.
I did write about Ben Simmons again. I'm on it. I feel like it's like you're the Wolves, right? Gerson knows. I don't think Gerson's done a great job in some areas. He missed on the Culver pick, the Russell trade, which we liked at the time to get off of Wiggins. Now you're trying to maybe get off of Russell, but the one thing he's identified here is that you're not going to get free agents. If you're going to make this team relevant, it's got to be through trades and maybe the draft. And I just feel like Simmons is a chance to do that. He's got tons of flaws. They become an instant playoff team if they can pull off a trade for him.
All right. Did our new owner, how do we pronounce it?
Laurie. Yeah.
Laurie, he gave the layup to everybody, didn't he? With the new city that he's going to build,
right?
What is it? The city of the future, somewhere out in the desert where they don't have any water, and of course, immediately the story becomes that's where he's going to move the Timberwolves.
Exactly.
Fantasy town, and he can't go to Vegas and he can't go to Seattle because the league wants him, but he can go to the city he's going to build out in the desert or something.
That'd be amazing. So, what's harder, building a city from scratch or getting the Wolves to the playoffs? We'll see.
Well, the trouble is, you get the Wolves to the playoffs, you might get fired the next year. So that's I talked to the Tibbs again about 9/11. He was out there with the Nixon when 9/11 happened. He was assistant coach. Van Gundy was, Van Gundy's buddy died up in the top of the North Tower, and so I talked to him. But Tibbs already hard at work with those Knicks, man. So
I'm sure.
Yeah,
they were good last year. Best season the Wolves have had in the last 15 years was that Jimmy Butler year, and we can't forget about that.
Yeah, yes.
Well,
and one thing, if you kind of like to occasionally irritate Timberwolves fans, there's nothing better than to brag about Tibbs because it drives them crazy.
They hate it. They do. But it's true. Like the problem wasn't. I mean, Tibbs barking on the sideline got old, but the problem here wasn't Butler. Butler was a really good player. Like the problem was everything else with the culture and just the guys they had here already. So and the fact that he went and signed a bunch of veterans for too many years and too much money, and they, it just kind of ran out of steam. But yeah,
Ben Simmons, not Johnson.
Ben Simmons, okay. Not Johnson. All right, Patrick, we'll do this again next week. Thank you, sir.
All right, see you.